Chapter 871. He was a complete and utter tragedy. Yu Minmin's heart stopped as she stared, mouth agape, in Gu Jingming's direction. No, don't shoot him. Shoot me instead, Yu Minmin exclaimed as she tried to snatch the gun. Gu Jingming was firm. He looked at Yu Minmin and shouted, Minmin, don't move. Yu Minmin gazed at Gu Jingming. Her tears fell uncontrollably. Gu Jingming, don't come over. You're the president and many lives are counting on you. But my life counts on you, Gu Jingming spoke hoarsely. Yu Minmin was stunned and she stood frozen. Fang Zongmu gritted his teeth and scoffed. Don't worry, one will follow the other. Neither of you will escape. His finger was just about to pull the trigger. However, at this moment, Zongmu, no, a shrill voice echoed strictly from behind. Fang Zongmu froze. He turned around with wide eyes. It was Yin Suya. She actually rushed here from Paris. Suya, you, Fang Zongmu looked at her in disbelief and asked, how come you're here? Yin Suya shook her head profusely, don't shoot. I'm begging you, don't kill him. She was begging him. Fang Zongmu loosened his grip and looked at her. He betrayed you and neglected you, yet you're still begging me to let him go. Suya, don't be a fool. He already came here for another woman. Yin Suya sat limply on the ground. She shook her head tearfully. But I can't forget him. I'm sorry, I can't. If you kill him, I won't be able to take it. Fang Zongmu's eyes were filled with sighs, hurt, and self-mocking. What was he doing all this for then? Is it because he's the president, so there'll be nothing left? Suya, tell me, is it because he has everything while I do not? No, it's because he is Gu Jingming, it is who he is, so I can't forget him. I'm sorry, I really want to love you too, but I can't do it. Fang Zongmu looked up to the sky and sighed heavily. At this moment, the guards behind were already prepared. There was a sudden loud bang. Fang Zongmu's chest started bleeding and some of the blood landed on Yin Suya. Yin Suya looked at him with shock and horror in her eyes. Zongmu, 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 don't die, Yin Suya crawled to Fang Zongmu's body and bawled. After a while, she looked up and turned to Gu Jingming behind her. Jingming, I really love you. It's true I didn't want to see all this happening, but I couldn't stop him. I could only stop him from killing you because I truly can't watch you die. Gu Jingming only looked plainly at her. Without a word, he walked slowly to Yu Minmin in silence. Yu Minmin suddenly felt exhausted. She leaned against Gu Jingming and went limp. Gu Jingming then saw the open wounds around her hands. They were deep and scary looking. Gu Jingming took her hands and gazed anxiously at her. What happened? Were you mistreated? Yu Minmin shook her head meekly and looked down at Yin Suya. Miss Yin, he died for you and because of you. Up until he died, he was convinced that everything he did was to your benefit. However, all this is merely a tragedy. He was a tragedy. I really feel sorry for him because before his body went cold, you already professed your love to another man. Furthermore, this man is married. She previously told Fang Zongmu that even if he died, Yin Suya would not remember him. Who would have thought that this would happen so soon? Yin Suya's brows twitched. She looked at her and said sternly, this is all your fault, Yu Minmin. Yin Suya really could not do it. Whenever she looked at Fang Zongmu, she did not feel a tinge of excitement unlike whenever she faced Gu Jingming. It was so obvious how much she wanted this man. She could not hide it at all. Because there was only one Gu Jingming on this planet. She really could not watch Gu Jingming be with another woman. She could not let another woman enjoy his glorious body. In any case, no matter how good Fang Zongmu was, he could never match up to Gu Jingming. Gu Jingming glanced coldly at Yin Suya but remained silent. He only lifted Yu Minmin up. Come, let's take you to the hospital. Yu Minmin nodded and rested in his arms. She closed her eyes quietly. At this point, it was already a bliss that she could breathe in his scent. It was a bliss that she thought she would lose. At the National Hospital, Yu Minmin underwent a full-body checkup in the ward. She only had some minor injuries and they all looked like superficial wounds. Only the injury around her hands looked the most serious. But thankfully, that did not appear to be anything major either. Gu Jingming remained by Yu Minmin's side. His stare made her feel embarrassed. She looked up at him and said, "I'm fine now. Why do you keep staring at me? You're making me scared." Gu Jingming replied, "I want to keep staring at you every minute and every second so that you won't disappear from my sight again." Yu Minmin's heart fluttered. Beside them, the nurse who was dressing her wounds heard this and her heart melted. She looked up strangely at Gu Jingming. She found it hard to believe that the seemingly cold and aloof president would be so nice to his wife. Furthermore, this special hospital was absolutely discreet. Gu Jingming had absolutely no need to display affection on purpose. He could be his true self as the people here were sworn to not leak anything that happened in here to the outside world. However, Gu Jingming still behaved like this. Perhaps this was his true self. The nurse glanced enviously at Yu Minmin and quickly retreated. Just then, the doctor entered with a serious look on his face. "Mr. President." In his hands was Yu Minmin's medical report. His quick steps seemed as if something happened and it made Gu Jingming anxious. "What's wrong?" Seeing Gu Jingming's expression, the doctor quickly said, "Sir, Madam, congratulations to you both. Madam is now 2 months pregnant." The husband and wife froze. They were in disbelief. Yu Minmin never thought about this. She looked up dumbfoundedly at the doctor. Pregnant. She was pregnant. Meanwhile, Gu Jingming looked more shocked than ever. After a long pause, he suddenly walked to Yu Minmin's side and grabbed her hand. "You're pregnant, Minmin, you're pregnant." Yu Minmin then snapped back to reality. However, she immediately got reminded of her previous experience. She touched her belly and did not dare to be too happy. My child will it." Gu Jingming's face also sank. He looked up, "Can we do a scan now to see if the baby is normal?" In her previous pregnancy, they only did a blood test and did not do a proper scan. As a result, they only knew that it was an ectopic pregnancy when she started bleeding. Chapter 872, Do you want a boy or a girl? The doctor immediately said, "Yes, although we probably cannot see other things, we should be able to see if it is inside or outside the womb." "Okay, go check now," Gu Jingming said. Yu Minmin lay on top, feeling extremely nervous. Gu Jingming was next to her. The machine faced the two of them. The screen showed some shadows, but those who did not know would not understand those professional concepts. The doctor looked around for something. Yu Minmin felt that it had been a while but it was still not found, so she felt panicked. As if he could feel Yu Minmin's nervousness, Gu Jingming held her hands. She looked up at Gu Jingming, wanting to smile but unable to do so. Gu Jingming's hands gripped tighter. He looked at her and said, "Don't worry. It will be fine." Yu Minmin felt much better as if she received his energy. Just then, the doctor finally said, "It's here, I found it." The doctor really felt more nervous than the couple. Because it was none other than Mr. President's child. Even if the child had a problem, because Gu Jingming was standing there looking, his powerful aura made people uncontrollably nervous. It was as if he would face a death sentence if there was even the tiniest problem, so the doctor was nerve-wrecked. The doctor said, "Mr. President, ma'am, look. This is the fetus. You can see its heartbeat and it is inside the womb, so it's normal as of now. But because it is a bit small, it was harder to find." Yu Minmin looked at the tiny dot carefully. That was her child. Indeed, it was hard to tell anything at this point in time. If the doctor did not say that was a child, she would not have thought that the tiny thing was a child. But upon hearing the doctor say everything was normal, her heart really lifted up. She looked up at Gu Jingming, who smiled at her gently, his smile creases spreading across the corners of his eyes. Yu Minmin suddenly felt her heart growing warm, feeling fulfilled for the first time. She did not like children at all in the past. But at this moment, she thought that she saw a family of 3 with a child, and that fulfilling scene made her filled with hope. She was eager for the child to quickly arrive. Gu Jingming sat down and held Yu Minmin's hands. Yu Minmin wanted to sit up, but he extended his hands to hold her down. One of his hands held the back of her head, and he gently held his forehead against hers. It was an ambiguous feeling to have his breathing mix with hers. Yu Minmin blushed. "I've said that it would have no problem, right?" he said. Yu Minmin nodded. It was really lucky. I cannot believe I am pregnant at this time. If anything happened these past 2 days, then wouldn't it? Shish, nothing would happen. Since he survived a hardship, he would definitely be blessed in the future. He will be fine. Yu Minmin looked down and smiled, her hand entwined with his. A sense of happiness began spreading in her heart. The doctor was still here, not knowing whether to stand up or pretend to see nothing. After some time, Gu Jingming finally stood up and lifted Yu Minmin up to head out. Yu Minmin definitely had to recuperate these few days. Because she was pregnant, some medication was removed, not allowed to be administered on her. Gu Jingming directly brought her back to the glazed tile palace after helping in the checkup here. Yu Minmin suddenly felt like the world was like a fantasy. Yesterday, she thought that she would not live to see tomorrow, but today, she was told that she was going to have a child. Even the sky today seemed suddenly a lot brighter. After reaching home, the maids began to busy themselves with work inside out. After Gu Jingming finished making the drinks for Yu Minmin, he personally brought it in for her to drink. Yu Minmin lay on the sofa and looked at Gu Jingming. Why? Because I am pregnant, my treatment has also upgraded. Gu Jingming placed down the drink in his hands. Am I not good to you normally? Yu Minmin knew that he also treated her like that in the past, so careful and tactful towards her. The shining Mr. President on the outside was like a normal man after returning to their room. He treated his wife with love and was even more careful than an ordinary man. She said, I am just kidding. You are great to me usually, I know. He sat down. You still have the conscience to remember, I thought you didn't know. Yu Minmin laughed. She saw him taking the spoon and feed her mouthful by mouthful. She asked, you say, do you want a boy or a girl? Gu Jingming looked at her. As long as it's by you, I will like them. Yu Minmin knew this guy was good at sweet-talking her. He was like a sly old fox. How else would he have achieved such great results in politics? She said, you are just patronizing me. That won't work, you have to say one. Gu Jingming shook his head and thought about it seriously. He then said, okay, then I prefer a boy. Why? Yu Minmin thought he should not believe in valuing males and belittling females. He said, if it is a boy, we don't need to care too much about him. We don't need to be worried if he will get bullied because no man is good. I don't want a girl to get conned by a man in the future. Yu Minmin was tickled by him. She looked at him and said, if no man is good, then as a man yourself, you are also not much a good person. Of course. Gu Jingming tapped her head. If I am a good person, then how would I get you pregnant? Yu Minmin blushed upon hearing him. This president was not too serious. At this moment, the maid knocked outside the door. Although she did not want to disturb the sweet couple, she knew the people outside had been waiting for a long time and did not dare to treat them lightly. So she knocked on the door and said, Sir, ma'am. Second young master and second young madam are here. Gu Jingze and Lin Che came together. Yu Minmin said, ah, they're here. They must also be worried these 2 days. Gu Jingming said, this time it was basically Jingze who had been helping. Lin Che was probably also worried about you. He invited the two of them in. Yu Minmin wanted to get down but was stopped by Gu Jingming. They are not outsiders anyway, so just wait for them like that. Yu Minmin agreed and stayed put. Gu Jingze walked in with Lin Che. After Lin Che saw Yu Minmin bodily well, her pale face gained some color. Minmin, I was so worried about you. She said, walking in. Gu Jingming looked and told Gu Jingze, okay, let's talk outside. Gu Jingze just happened to have something to discuss with him, so he nodded and left the space to Lin Che and Yu Minmin. Lin Che said, what did they maid say just now? You are pregnant, really? Yu Minmin blushed, feeling a little shy. They like to gossip too much. Lin Che smiled. Why? Were you planning to hide it from me? Chapter 873. Rest assured, provide for the baby and leave everything to me. Yu Minmin said, of course not. I just wanted to tell you myself, but they were chattering about it before I could. Lin Che exclaimed, I was so worried about you yesterday. Thank goodness you are fine and even received good news from the checkup, but you have suffered this time around too. She looked at the injury on Yu Minmin's hands and thought it must be painful. Let me see, how did you manage to get your hand injured like that? Yu Minmin waved her hands. It's fine, it's just a skin-deep wound. Lin Che furrowed her brows. It must be painful. Yu Minmin shook her head. I probably had an adrenaline rush at that time, so I didn't feel any pain. Looking at it now seems scary, but it was actually nothing. And it is already healing, so it's just a little itchy. Okay, seriously, those nasty guy stuff and involving women for nothing. Lin Che pulled her. Luckily you were fine. Yu Minmin sighed and thought about Fang Zongmu. She still felt a sense of regret. He did a crazy thing for a woman, but in the end, the woman was not moved at all. What a waste. Yu Minmin sometimes pitied him. But everything was over, so she did not really care about it anymore. She snapped out of her daze. Oh yes, I did not manage to look at the company these few days, so I'm not sure if it's doing well. Okay, the company still has me, so don't worry and focus on recovering and providing for the baby. After you recover, you can come back and manage the company. Yu Minmin said, okay, I'll trouble you for these few days. Don't worry. Yu Minmin was a person who did not like being free. But after the previous experience, she did not dare to anyhow move around. She also felt that it was better for her to continue to deal with the things she should deal with after her pregnancy stabilized. Anyway, Bai was matured now, and she didn't have to worry about Che, so she definitely had the ability to deal with the mess. Outside, Gu Jingze said, the Fang family things had been dealt with cleanly. This time it was a risky win, but big brother, you were also really rash then. Luckily, Yin Suya. Gu Jingming shook his head. If it was you, would you be able to bear not going out back then? I could not bear it, but I don't regret it either. Gu Jingze patted his shoulders. Anyway, things are over, so it's better to be careful in the future. Gu Jingming nodded. This time, did Black Eagle get involved? No, Gu Jingze said. After meeting him previously, I did not see him again. I have no idea what he is busy with, and this time I thought there were many confidential materials involved, so I didn't call him. Gu Jingming asked, oh yes, did father ask you to help check up some things when he came back? Oh, you mean, about a child? Why, did he ask you to check on him too? Yes, he asked me to do him a favor and check the news in C Nation. But who exactly is this child? I looked it up. According to his birth year, he was around your age. Gu Jingze shook his head. I am also not sure who this person is. Gu Jingming said, but this is not easy to check. I asked someone to check all the baby records, orphanages, entry and exit records, and adoption information that year, but there was nothing. It had been a long time too, so it was like finding a needle in a haystack. I don't think it will be an easy search. If we want to know who he is, we have two ways. First, we can ask father, and second, we follow his clues and look him up. I think father may not tell us even if we ask him. Then we can only look him up. Gu Jingming said. As the two brothers were discussing future events, the entire supper society, however, were still discussing the shocking incident that just happened. After Fang Zongmu's passing, the Fang family lost its only blood descendant. The Fang family, which held strong power under the army and government, was also easily destroyed by the Gu family. All of the aristocratic families were in shock. But they were more wary of the Gu family now. As Yu Minmin was resting at home, Lin Che was outside privately discussing the script of the drama twice. After reading through the script, Lin Che felt that it was indeed a good script. She looked at Nangong Yu, feeling a little hesitant. Why did you choose me? I am an expired celebrity and I haven't filmed a single movie since my return. Nangong Yu said, that day, during the national drama ceremony, you put up a good show. I think you are very suitable for this character, so I want you to act it. This character was an evil woman. She always lied to the male lead with amazing acting skills. She was evil and toxic. However, this movie was a comedy and was using black comedy to mock society. Therefore, it was a good, refreshing comedy movie. Lin Che said, because that segment of performance was for me to trigger Peng Yu, so don't you regret it later. How could I? I am very good at judging people. Don't worry. This character suits you and you suit our cast, so you will not regret joining this show. Lin Che thought about it and agreed. She thought she could give it a go because she had indeed not acted like such a character before. I had never met you before. Surprisingly, we were fated because of the national drama ceremony. Ah, look, this time I was also lucky like a blind cat meeting a dead rat. Come on, you are no blind cat and I am not a dead rat. I take it that since you agreed, we will find a time to discuss the contract. After signing it, we will start filming next month. Okay, well, I hope to work well with you. Lin Che was casted by Nangong Yu, and was immediately going to film his movie after leaving the cast of the television drama. This news created an uproar in the entertainment industry. On the day of signing the contract, Nangong Yu made an announcement on Weibo with Lin Che's photo, saying that he welcomed Lin Che's joining. Everyone was still in shock. The two people seemed completely unrelated, but now, they were going to film together. Fans thought it was strange at first, but were now looking forward to it. Nangong Yu and Lin Che were both interesting people, so they thought that it must be interesting for them to film together as well. Nangong Yu had a good reputation in the industry and amongst fans. Everyone thought that Lin Che was lucky to film his movie. After leaving the previous cast, she entered the movie cast, which was much better than the former. In the company, Abai looked at Lin Che and said, "Let Peng Yu see. We don't care about their drama at all. But, I don't know if this indie movie will be able to sell." Although Nangong Yu has a good reputation, his movies did not sell extremely well. In other words, although they were popular, there was no single chart buster. I don't know how well this one will perform. Currently, I am the only fixed cast, so we don't know who is the male lead. However, the script doesn't seem too bad and comedy has a sizable market. I don't ask for it to be a hot seller. As long as it doesn't make a loss and is a bit popular, that's enough for me. After all, I have just returned. I can only do things slowly. I don't ask to be explosively popular instantaneously. I am maintaining an attitude of a newcomer, slowly taking it as if I am starting from the beginning. Lin Che said, "Oh yes, recently Minmin will have no time to deal with company stuff, so we will have to do it ourselves these past few days." Chapter 874. This man's gaze is a little weird. Abai said, "Of course, I have no problem. After learning for so long, I need a chance to train myself." Just then, someone outside suddenly said, "Sister Che, there is an old guy wanting to meet you outside." Old guy? Lin Che asked questionably. Yes, we don't know who he is, but anyway, he is latched onto the door and refused to leave. We tried to shoo him away for some time but he didn't leave. Lin Che said, "Forget it, let me go and see." Lin Che stood up and headed outside. She saw Ji Yu Qigong at the door and got a shock. Her mouth was agape for a while before hurriedly calling, "Father." She walked over. "What brings you here?" The person behind her asked in shock. This old guy is Sister Che's father. They naturally thought that it was not true because Lin Che's father was the mayor and it had been exposed in public in the past. They naturally did not know that he was not Lin Che's father but Gu Jingze's father. His sons were doing extremely well in their own areas, but he was an old guy who no one heard of. No one could look at him and connect him with Gu Jingze or Gu Jingming. "Father, why are you here?" she asked. Ji Yu Qigong laughed. "Nothing, I am just walking around here, so I swung past and wanted to come here and take a look. Also, you have been busy these few days because of Jingming, so it was not good for me to disturb you. Now, I want to go and visit my grandchildren. Will that be all right?" Realization dawned upon Lin Che. She had not brought him to visit Nianian. Indeed, because she was so busy these past few days, she temporarily forgot about these things. There were too many miscellaneous matters. If there was no reminder, she would forget about them. She said, "Look, I think it is about time. Nianian will probably be fetched home soon. How about I bring you home to visit Nianian?" Yes, of course. That would be great. Jing's is always busy, so I don't want to easily disturb him. Not at all. You can go there anytime. He was smiling and looked very friendly. Lin Che briefed the company and promptly drove the two of them back. At the GU residence. Some maids were newly trained, so many did not know who the old man was. But since he was brought back by Lin Che, they naturally allowed him to enter. After entering, some maids were looking at him curiously, so Lin Che said, "What are you looking at?" "Nianian's grandfather is here to visit Nianian. Quickly ask someone to call Nianian out." Upon hearing that, everyone looked at him in shock. They knew that Gu old master was back after many years, but they had not seen him. It was the first time they saw him, so naturally, they were surprised. After hearing it was their old master, everyone hurriedly went to prepare for afternoon tea. Lin Che asked, "Where is Nianian?" The maid said, "Madam, sir is in the room discussing with Mr. Mo. Young master will get home soon. Do I need to notify sir?" "Oh, Mo Jingyan, all right, let them discuss away. We will just sit here and wait." In the room, Mo Jingyan sat there, looking lazily at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze said, "There are a lot of things we are collecting from the Fang family. Some women are overseas and will never return to C Nation. There are still a few jurisdictions under the Fang family. So I am thinking that if you are interested, I can give you some power in the army." Mo Jingyan raised his eyebrows at him. "You trust me that much? Don't forget that I used to have scores against your family. This is not about trust. This is about checks and balances. Do you think I will give you everything? There will definitely be other powers restricting you. I am not afraid of you having some power unless you want to give up on C Nation and the clean identity you got with much difficulty. Unless you want to go back to the dark and continue being the Black Eagle and give up your daughter." "Hey," Mo Jingyan almost jumped up. "I knew it. You don't have a good heart in letting me acknowledge my daughter." Gu Jingze said, "Only I know this. If I didn't tell you, you would have probably never known about this your whole life. So even if I have a motive, it is definitely beneficial for you too. Furthermore, as long as we are still on the same line, I will help protect your daughter and your woman. Isn't this great?" Mo Jingyan was a little half-hearted. He looked in front of him, his expression neutral so that Gu Jingze wouldn't know what he was thinking. After a while, Mo Jingyan finally said, "Okay, if you're willing to give it to me, I'll take it. No one rejects a free lunch, right?" Gu Jingze only smiled coolly. Mo Jingyan raised his eyebrows at him, purposefully making things difficult for him. "But I have to remind you. Although the father and son of the Fang family are dead, there are a lot of relatives of Fang who are not as loyal as they seem to be. If they backstab you in the future, things may not be as perfect as you think it is. Don't worry, by then, you will be the person who killed Fang Jimin together with me. If I die, don't you dare think about escaping." "You," Mo Jingyan scoffed. Mo Jingyan did not say another word and rose to exit. The two people chatted as they walked out. Outside, there was the noise of conversation. It was Lin Che and Gu Qigong. Gu Jingze asked the maid, "Is madam back?" "Yes, she came together with old master Gu." Gu Jingze froze immediately. He raised his foot to go out, but he did not notice Mo Jingyan stopping behind him to stand there and look outside. He narrowed his eyes. After a while, he tightened his fist and followed him out. Lin Che heard some noise and looked up. She smiled and welcomed Gu Jingze. "Are you done being busy? Father wanted to come and visit Nianian." Gu Qigong sat there, turning back with a smile. Gu Jingze said, "Oh, let me ask someone to bring Nianian back." Lin Che asked in shock, "Does Nianian come back so late every day? Why hasn't he come back yet?" Gu Jingze's eyes flashed and looked at Gu Qigong at the side. Gu Qigong raised his eyebrows. Obviously, he knew something, but he maintained his smile and said nothing. Gu Jingze did not care about him and told Lin Che. "Nianian likes to play for a while outside before coming back." Oh, Lin Che did not doubt him. However, she saw Mo Jingyan silently walking out behind him. Gu Qigong just discovered the person behind Gu Jingze. He looked behind and narrowed his eyes at Mo Jingyan. Originally, it was a stranger, but he was shocked by the expression on his face. In those deep eyes, there seemed to be a deep sense of anger, which made Gu Qigong freeze. He did not know who he was, but he thought his expression was strange. Just then, Gu Jingze heard noise from outside. Nianian was brought back. Lin Che immediately said, "Ah, Nianian arrived." Gu Jingze said, "Father, go take a look." Gu Qigong turned back and looked at Mo Jingyan, who was behind him again, before walking over to find Nianian with a smile. Chapter 875. I will always ignore you from now, humph. Mo Jingyan already left silently. When they searched for him, they found that he was already missing. Gu Qigong was naturally happy to see Nianian. Nianian also obediently looked up and, upon hearing what Lin Che said, politely called him grandfather. Gu Qigong looked at Nianian and sighed. Ah, being a child of the Gu family is tough. But one day, you will be grateful for the challenges today. Come, let grandfather take a look to see if Nianian is in good health. He was going to carry Nianian, but his old hips could not handle it. Just as he was going to carry him, he yelped. Lin Che got shocked, immediately taking over Nianian. Father, are you okay? Gu Jingze asked at the side, are you hurt? Nianian is heavy. If you cannot carry him, don't force yourself. Let me call someone to take a look. Gu Qigong covered his hips and laughed sheepishly. Ah, I have to admit that I am old. Gu Jingze first asked someone to take a look at Gu Qigong. Luckily, he only twisted his hips and it was of no concern. He lay down and still felt that he had to return to the old Gu residence. Gu Jingze said that he would get someone to send him back. Gu Qigong asked, why don't you also go there for a night? These hips of mine are bothersome, but I haven't really had the chance to look at Nianian properly. Lin Che looked at Gu Qigong, who definitely looked reluctant, as if he would be indignant if he returned now. When Lin Che saw how Gu Jingze was going to reject him, she immediately said, all right, let's send father back. I will also be worried if he goes back alone. Gu Jingze looked up at Lin Che. Seeing her pitiful gaze, he did not say anything. Gu Qigong looked at them and smiled. This stubborn little boy, he actually changed his mind from another person's single sentence. Lin Che and Gu Jingze brought Nianian together to send Gu Qigong back. Lin Che especially arranged for Nianian to sit in the same car as old Master Gu so that they would become closer. Gu Jingze sat in the same car as Lin Che. She looked at Gu Jingze and said, you are so cold towards your dad. Gu Jingze looked at her. Am I? I don't think so. Lin Che tilted her head. Is it because he abandoned you for over 10 years, so you don't like him? Gu Jingze took a breath. Not really. Children of the Gu family are independent since they were young. Lin Che shook her head. Children of the Gu family are still children. I know he left for over 10 years, and when you were young, he did not care much about you, so you don't feel close to him. But he had his matters to take care of, and he did not mean any harm to you. Even if he is not close to you, he is still your father, and compared to him. Lin Che lowered her head, thinking about her father who did not deserve to be called one, and shook her head. At least, you have a father. Upon hearing that, Gu Jingze's eyes shifted towards Lin Che at the side. He recalled that she had never had a real home in the past, which made him feel bad. He looked at Lin Che and gathered her in his arms. He kissed her hair stands and said, don't worry. You still have me. Lin Che smiled and looked up. Yes, I still have you. She gazed at his face and smiled lightly. It is enough to have you. Sometimes I wonder if the heavens gave me so many injuries earlier because I was destined to meet you. Gu Jingze said, you made me pressurized as if I wasn't good and sorry towards you. Lin Che looked up. Why, are you going to treat me badly? I'll treat you nicely, 100% of niceness. Only then did she smiled, fulfilled. He shook his head. If I treat you badly, how are you going to take revenge on me? Me, of course, I cannot take revenge on you. You are the CEO of Gu family, but, humph. Don't you enter my room at night. Her hand pushed his chest. Gu Jingze's face darkened and said, this revenge is very severe. He said, you are the first woman who dared to threaten me like that. Are you not afraid that I will take revenge on you too? Lin Che looked at him. How are you going to take revenge? Gu Jingze squeezed her. If you don't let me into your room, I will forcefully break in and nicely take revenge on you on the bed. Heck is Mr. CEO Gu, you have quite the revenge techniques. Ha, it seems like you think it's not enough. Then we can first try it out tonight. Get lost. Gu Jingze lifted her chin and already engaged her lips here, rating her completely for some time. Lin Che's mouth was numb from his sucking. He devoured her tastiness bit by bit. His hands were underneath, exploring her long legs. But after all, they were in the car. Despite being out of breath, Lin Che did not forget about the chauffeur in front. She immediately grabbed his dishonest hand and made him let go of her. At the front, the chauffeur also heaved a sigh of relief. When the car finally arrived at the destination and the car stopped, his palms were soaked with sweat. He could only pray that the next time Sir and Madam were in the same car, no one, under no circumstances, would ask him to drive again. He could not handle it. He did not dare to look behind. However, he could still feel the heatwave hitting him in waves. He thought the couple could really just hit it off at any moment. He really did not want to watch a reality show, but if Gu Jingze really had a go with Lin Che as the chauffeur of Gu family, he really would not dare to make a single sound. Fortunately, they stopped themselves in time. Actually thinking about it, Sir and Madam were not predictable people. But when they were together, they were the same as a couple in love and without rationality. Lin Che got shy easily, so her face was already burning. She glared at Gu Jingze and hurried out of the car, ignoring Gu Jingze. Seriously, making a move on her on the car was too embarrassing. She would be so awkward if she saw this chauffeur again. Gu Jingze saw her run away and felt despondent standing there. He looked back at the blushing chauffeur and then at this car. He looked around it and felt that it was necessary to install some devices for privacy. Gu Jingze hurriedly got out of the car and ran after her. Hey, Lin Che, wait for me. Lin Che turned back and glared at him. She continued to ignore him and walked towards the old mansion herself. The people inside were shocked looking at Gu Jingze chasing after Lin Che while entering. He yelled Lin Che's name, shocking the people uncontrollably. There's Sir offended Madam again. Lin Che saw Mu Wanqing and hurried over. Mom. Mu Wanqing looked worried. What happened? I heard your dad. He just twisted his hips. The doctor said it'll be fine after he gets some rest. Just then, Gu Jingze chased over and looked at Lin Che. Lin Che immediately hid behind Mu Wanqing and made a funny face at Gu Jingze. Mu Wanqing looked at the two of them strangely and still did not understand what they were doing. Chapter 876, Only You Can Bully Him. Gu Jingze looked at Mu Wanqing and retracted his previous expression. He said, Mother doesn't need to worry. I have already asked someone to take a look. He told Lin Che, you come here. Upon seeing that, Lin Che quickly grabbed Mu Wanqing's elbow. Mom, look, he is going to bully me again. Mu Wanqing asked, why do I feel like you are the one bullying him? Lin Che pouted, looking innocent as if she was wrongly accused like Dou Wan. Dou, a character of an ancient Chinese play. She was wrongly convicted of crimes by a corrupt court official for actions perpetrated by a rejected suitor, Zhang the Mule. After her execution, 3 prophesied phenomena occurred to prove her innocence, including a blood rain from the sky, snow in June, and a 3-year drought. How so? He is so powerful and so stern, how can I possibly bully him? Mu Wanqing tapped her forehead. No matter how stern he is, you have him wrapped around your finger. Other people will never be able to bully him, but it is definitely possible for you. Mom, look at you. You are starting to be biased towards him. Lin Che stomped her feet and whined. Mu Wanqing softened because of her. Okay, I will be biased towards you. I won't let him bully you, alright? Yes, Mom, you treat me the best. Lin Che leaned on her shoulder and rubbed slightly. Mu Wanqing looked at him. She is a girl and you have to accommodate her. How can you bully her? Gu Jingze's face darkened. He had never seen another woman who was better at confusing what was right and wrong or better at whining. The most important thing was that other women looked annoying when they whined, but she was not like that at all. Her whining look was so natural and not fake at all. Gu Jingze knew it was not because love was blind or because beauty was in the eye of the beholder. She just had this power. Even though everyone knew she was spouting rubbish, they were still helpless against her. Gu Jingze could only glare at her threateningly as if his eyes were saying, "After I catch you, see how I will deal with you." However, Lin Che still dauntlessly made funny faces at him as if she did not care at all. Mu Wanqing looked and laughed boisterously. She saw Gu Qigong just walk in then, and next to him was little Nianian. It was as if the whole family had gathered, making Mu Wanqing feel extremely fulfilled at the moment. In her life, she had not hoped for anything else but a whole and happy family. Everyone thought that the couple was fighting when they saw a gloomy Gu Jingze chasing Lin Che inside. When they looked again, they realized they were just playing around. When second young master used to be just the second young master, everyone did not give much care about him doting on Lin Che. Now that second young master was the head of the family, everyone's gaze was even more focused on him. They cared about every tiny change about him. Seeing how he could play around with Lin Che, they further confirmed that their relationship was still stable after being together for so long. They even still seemed like a new couple fresh in love, playing around like the start of their relationship. More people thought that soon, Gu Jingze would not be less doting on Madame. It seemed like their good relationship would continue, so no one could threaten Madame's place currently. Thus, everyone automatically became more respectful towards Lin Che. Gu Qigong brought Gu Xinian out to play, so Lin Che and Gu Jingze went back to their room. Gu Qigong peeked at Gu Xinian and asked with a sigh, "Nianian, are you tired?" Nianian shook his head, "I am not tired." Gu Qigong said, "Ah, grandfather knows you are not only studying at the preschool. You must have learned a lot of things already. If you are tired, you can tell your father. These things are not mandatory to learn about anyways." Nianian shook his head, "I am really not tired. The more I learn, the better I can protect mother." Gu Qigong thought with surprise, this child was really different upon inspection. He could be compared with young Gu Jingze. He told Nianian, "Okay, good child. Seeing how you are so hardworking, grandfather will give you a present." Nianian asked, "What good present is grandfather going to give me?" "Hey, how do you know it is something good?" Gu Qigong looked at the clever boy. Although he looked silent, this little guy's eyes were sharp. Nianian said, "Grandfather has been observing me for a while now. Isn't it because you have something to give me?" Gu Qigong said, "Good, good. I did not misjudge you. Yes, these few years, grandfather has been playing outside. I played around and did not accomplish anything, but there is a small team that I especially trained. Now that I am back, these people are not very useful to me, so grandfather will give them to you." Nianian heard it and immediately looked up. "Is it people? Where are they?" Gu Qigong took out a card from his pocket and passed to him. "This is a chip with their information. Take it and they will be yours in the future. You cannot see them now, but when you have the chance, I will get them to come and find you. This is team of secret guards. They are very good at tracking and finding, and they are adept at protecting you secretly. As for other functions, it will depend on how you use them after learning more." Nianian looked at the thing in his palm and asked Gu Qigong, "Such powerful people, grandfather, why are you not giving this to father?" Gu Qigong said, "Your father naturally has his own people, so he doesn't need me, ah." Gu Xinian naturally accepted it happily. He looked up and really smiled at Gu Qigong. "Thank you, grandfather." Gu Qigong said, "Hey, you little materialistic guy. You only looked at me properly after I gave you something." Gu Xinian said, "Grandfather, you have given me time to get used to it. I am still not used to suddenly having so many elders caring for me." Gu Qigong speechlessly shook his head. But since he was his own grandson, and such a clever one at that, he naturally became more fond of him the more he looked at him. He was considering how to settle these people when he returned. They were actually used to find that child, but since they could not find him after so many years, it seemed like it was useless finding him without a name. It was better to let his two sons activate the official and private methods to find him across the country. Since they were now useless to him, it was better to give them to someone who could use them. Although Nianian was young, he had a great aura. In the future, he would not be any ordinary guy, so it was apt giving them to him. And on the other side, Gu Jingze found the chance to finally trap Lin Che in the room. Lin Che turned back and saw Gu Jingze entering. She initially did not give it much thought, but she felt Gu Jingze's eyes lit up. He smiled at her deeply, walking towards her step by step. Lin Che suddenly felt uneasy as she looked at him and asked, "Hey, what are you doing? What do you think?" Chapter 877, Let me see who dared invade my privacy. Lin Che's hands pushed his chest. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Gu Jingze leaned against her throat. "I was already thinking about it in the car. Do you think I am in a hurry?" He still dared to talk about the car. Lin Che scoffed. "Let go of me, you pervert. You dared to touch me in the car. Even the chauffeur saw it." Gu Jingze looked down at her. "Don't even talk about me not doing anything. Even if I dared to do something, do you think anyone dares to look?" Gu Jingze hugged her. "Let me show you who dared to invade Gu Jingze's privacy." As he spoke, Gu Jingze picked up the phone. "Clear the surrounding of the room," he said. Lin Che looked at him in shock. "What are you planning to do?" Gu Jingze immediately carried her, looked down, and showed a seductive smile. Lin Che did not know why, but she thought she saw some playfulness in that smile. He carried her and walked towards the balcony with no hesitation. At the old Gu family residence, Gu Jingze still lived in the independent two-level apartment he lived alone in when he was young. It was separated from the rest of the house. The bedroom was on the second floor and the balcony on the second floor was extremely spacious. He pulled open the white curtains while carrying Lin Che. He then placed her onto the windowsill. Lin Che froze and immediately looked down through the window. Outside was a peaceful night. There was not a single soul seen on the road. None of the maids who walked around daily could be seen now. It was all because he asked for all the people to be cleared, so it was quiet in the air outside. But this was after all the balcony. Lin Che hurriedly said, No, not here, Gu Jingze." But before she finished her sentence, her mouth was completely blocked by him. His huge palms moved along her body and pinched her two sensitive spots, pushing her body towards the window. The room was full of hot air, so it felt good that her body was against the cool glass of the window. But looking at the night scenery outside, she recalled that she was against a transparent window, so she did not know if people outside could see anything. Although he was probably right, no one dared to invade his privacy. However, it was still too thrilling. She sighed and hugged him. The windowsill was not big, so when he pulled her legs down, her legs automatically wrapped themselves around his hips. "Wrapped up so tightly, don't worry. I will satisfy you now. Don't be impatient." This position was on another level of difficulty. But Gu Jingze, who was full of energy, did not mind at all. He leaned against her, and the window began to tremble because of them. She scratched his body in a daze. She thought that he must be feeling the thrill as well because his actions were a lot more powerful than usual. She did not know how long it passed before the tremors finally stopped. He silently hugged her. The windows were filled with hot air. Their sweat mingled and finally dripped down. Gu Jingze carried her onto the bed, unwilling to move, just silently hugging her and lying down, peaceful and harmonious, not boring at all. Just like that, he was so fulfilled, like he was in heaven. She was a little tired. She looked up and said, "I wonder how Nianian is talking to grandfather." Gu Jingze said, "Don't worry. Nianian can handle it." Lin Che said, "Looks like you trust Nianian a lot." "Of course, I trust my genes. It will definitely not go wrong." Lin Che pouted. "Idiot, he also has half of me." Gu Jingze said, "Judging by his IQ, your genes should be all on controlling his looks, not his brain." "Hey, what do you mean? But you have no use for a brain. You have me for everything, so you can just be responsible for doing the things you want." He leaned against the back of her head and kissed her earlobes. Her body was still sensitive, so she shook a little. Gu Jingze asked, "Your personal guards, how are you using them?" "Very well. But these things are minor. If you need it, you can continue to choose anytime," Gu Jingze said. Lin Che asked strangely, "Where do you train these people?" Gu Jingze said, "Most of them are trained by the Gu family since they were young. We picked people with absolutely clean family backgrounds. They received training since they were 11 or 12. There are GU family training camps all over the world. Most of them do not know each other because they were from different camps around the world. This is to prevent them from forming parties. Their information is all stored in the GU family database, and in the end, it will be consolidated for us to choose. Only the outstanding ones will be picked from the training camps to become guards, security, or personal guards like yours. So complicated. Actually, it is more complicated than that. I am just explaining it in the way your brain can accept. Lin Che glared at him, but she thought that such a complicated system cannot be easily told to someone. Is it all right that you tell me these things now? These things are confidential, right? Technically speaking, since I have already taken over as the head of the family, you should be the matriarch of this family. But you left for a while and we did not have the opportunity to redo our wedding ceremony despite being married for many years, so you are not considered to have everyone's blessings, so you temporarily still cannot do some things a matriarch should do. Lin Che remembered hearing them say earlier that Mu Wanqing was considered the matriarch of the family. She was well respected, so many of the matters were given to her to handle and everyone in the household trusted her very much. If Lin Che was asked to handle these, she had no confidence at all. Lin Che said, "Stop, I really don't know how to do these things. I don't think I can do it." Gu Jingze said, "If you don't want to do it, then don't do it." He kissed her forehead and looked at her. Lin Che gazed at his adoring face and said gloomily, "But you are already the head of the family. If I don't do anything, isn't that bad?" Chapter 878, He is that illegitimate child. Gu Jingze said, "Two people are together because they feel comfortable together. I married a woman into the family because I wanted to make her happy. So I hope that you can do the things that you want to do, and not be bound by things you don't want to do." Mother is an example. Because of trivial matters in the family, she often doesn't dare to go out in case it affects the Gu family. However, no one knows if she is leading a happy life like that. I only know that she sacrificed a lot because of these things, so I don't want you to sacrifice like that. Lin Che felt even more touched. She looked at him and thought that since he was so good to her, if she really did not notice it, then she was not a good match to him. She asked, "After becoming the matriarch, is one really not allowed to go out and do other things?" "Of course not," Gu Jingze said. "However, Mother is very careful. She does not want to be buttered up to or speculated, which makes her social circle complicated. She thinks that this will affect the things in the Gu family. For example, the people you know outside may ask you to do some things. If you don't do it, they will be angry. If you do it and it harms the Gu family, you have no choice, so she directly just cut off her social circle and stopped going out daily." Ah yes, Mother often said that she had not gone out for very long. Isn't it very lonely living like that? Lin Che said. Gu Jingze nodded. Because father left very early on, Mother had no choice but to make herself stronger. But you don't need to. He looked down and smiled at Lin Che. You have me, so you don't need to think too much. Lin Che smiled and looked up at Gu Jingze. I know. She pondered for a while and said, "Although I may not know how to be a matriarch, I will work hard to learn about it. One day, I will become a wise internal helper for you." Gu Jingze smiled and looked at her. Don't get too tired. I believe that there are a lot of things that can be done multitasking as long as you have the heart to. Gu Jingze replied, yes. Then, as the matriarch, what is the first thing she has to do? I think the Gu family may not trust me at all now. After all, it is difficult to accept a new person. Mother has been doing it for so many years, so they are long used to it. If I take over her, they will definitely have their doubts. Gu Jingze nodded and narrowed his eyes like he was thinking. That's right, so the first thing we have to do is gain their trust. Luckily, we are not in a hurry, so we can do this slowly. Lin Che followed and nodded her head earnestly. She believed that as long as she had the heart to do so, she could definitely do it as well if Mu Wanqing could do it. Lin Che went back to the initial question. So in that training camp, do they only train security guards like Dongzi? There are many talents in the various categories. Of course, they are separated into different training camps. Slowly, you will get in touch with them. Alright, let's clean you up. Although it was blissful to be hugged like that, it was not particularly comfortable since they were covered in sweat. He got up and carried her towards the bathroom. Meanwhile, Mo Jingyan returned home. Upon entering, he sensed that someone was in the room. He narrowed his eyes and scanned the room, taking out his gun from his pocket. He dangerously scanned this quiet room and asked, which friend of mine did not knock the door when coming in? Jingyan, you are too careful. This room has been set up so carefully that it is impossible to hide a person. Was that necessary? A voice traveled from inside. Upon hearing the voice, Mo Jingyan froze and put down the gun in his hands. Sir Yun, why are you here? It was Yun Kuoshan who came. He laughed and walked out. You are the adopted son of my big brother. Why are you calling me sir? You can just call me uncle, he said. Mo Jingyan placed the gun in his hands back into his pockets. He indignantly found a place to sit and looked at him. Sir, I already made an agreement with the Yun family that I will never disclose my relationship with the Yun family. Even if it is in front of my adopted father, I will respectfully call him Mr. Yun, all the more if it is you. You can tell me directly, what business do you have with me here? Yun Kuoshan said, Ah, you are so cold-blooded. At first, my brother took great risks to run to the snow-filled place and find you frozen. He carried you back to treat you, and that was the first time I saw you in covers. You were much cuter back then. Mo Jingyan said, but I have already been independent outside since I was 6 years old. Since then, I have not seen you for so many years, so it is reasonable to conclude that you do not understand me. Yun Kuoshan said, that was to hide your identity and from the others, so we let you make a living outside. Look, the Gu family is still looking for you. Gu Qigong has not given up on finding you. If you were discovered to be at the Yun family, would you still be alive now? Big brother had put in a lot of effort to help you. Mo Jingyan looked up at Yun Kuoshan. Yun Kuoshan had a sneaky expression. Even his smile seemed sly. How would Yun Kuoshan know that the Gu family lost a child before? At that time, he was still young, so he did not know who exactly was the child that his elder brother carried back and why he was hidden so strictly. He only said that this child should be kept and would have great use in the future, but he did not speak about the specifics. For a few years, Black Eagle's power gradually increased. Then, he told Yun Kuoshan that Black Eagle was the child back then and his family background was indeed shocking. Actually, even Yun Kuoshan's older brother never knew that Black Eagle would develop so well after being released. Although he secretly gave Black Eagle financial aid, it could not be too obvious there was help, so Black Eagle was indeed talented and resilient, just developing by himself quickly. He once said that was the power of vengeance, so great that it could make someone stronger, colder, and dauntless moving forward. Thus, the Yun family never hid from Black Eagle about his family background. Yun Kuoshan also came to find him today about the Gu family. He said, you have worked so hard to climb up initially. Wasn't it because one day, you could let the Gu family compensate for everything you have lost? Now, the chance is right in front of you. You have a good relationship with Gu Jingze and you are so close to Gu Shand, but why didn't you make any moves? We had an agreement, you help me get what I want and Gu Shand's life is yours. But now. Mo Jingyan looked at Yun Kuoshan. You have no right to ask me to do anything. Yun Kuoshan looked at the fearless man. He actually said that he had no right. Why, Black Eagle, don't you want to get the Gu family? Don't you want everything Gu Jingze has now? You are both children of the Gu family. Whatever he has now, you initially had the chance to get too. Furthermore, your ability is not any worse than Gu Jingze. Chapter 879, Now is your only chance. Mo Jingyan looked at him. You only need to tell me what your motive is in coming here. You don't have to say anything else. Just tell me what you want to do. I am just here to remind you that Gu Jingze just became the head of the family. His position is not stable yet and Gu Shand just lost the place he had in the past, so he cannot stop you. This is a good chance for you to attack. If you don't do it now, when Gu Jingze's position becomes stable, you will have nothing. What are you doing? Are you so close to Gu Jingze that you have developed some sort of brotherhood with him? Don't you take it for real? A person like Gu Jingze can finish off the Fang family in a few days and split off the power so cleanly. Do you think he is a person that values friendships? When you are being used by him, you are his brother. When you are of no use, you are nothing. So you better think carefully. After working hard for so long, are you now ready to just give up now? Mo Jingyan sat there with his eyes narrowed, his eyes as deep as an endless trench, making one unable to guess what he was thinking. Yun Kuoshan continued, "What do you think?" After a while, Mo Jingyan looked up. "I just got a good thing from Gu Jingze." Yun Kuoshan's eyes lit up. "What?" Mo Jingyan said, "It is a military factory." Yun Kuoshan smiled. "He really trusts you now. That is a good thing to be made use of." Mo Jingyan leaned there and took a breath. Lin Che and Gu Jingze left the Gu family mansion the second day. Yu Minmin was very bored at home, so Lin Che and Shen Yoren went to visit her together. Yu Minmin was resting in her home's garden. Because she was still worried about her child, she did not leave the house these past few days. She was casually reading books and watching television at home. Gu Jingming was still strictly watching over her. If there was any small movement, he would be very nervous. Yu Minmin was also a little nervous, but after a few days of adapting, she was getting used to it. She felt that it was not a big deal to be pregnant. She would not have lost the child by just walking for a bit or shaking. The maids were instructed by Gu Jingming, so they seemed very nervous. While they were looking after Yu Minmin, they would hurry over to take a look and ask if she needed anything if there was any small movement. Shen Yoren said, "After your child is born, the two at my house will not be the youngest." Yu Minmin said, "Come on, we don't know how long it'll take. It's only 2 months along." Shen Yoren said, "You just got pregnant, so you think you'll still have a long time. But when we look back at it, it really felt like the children were born within the blink of an eye. Furthermore, when they are born, you will really feel the urge to stuff them back. Thus, I am really envious of how your child is still in your tummy." Yu Minmin asked, "Really? Is it that scary?" Lin Che said, "Yoren's 2 children were born at the same time, so she'll definitely have it harder than us with 1 child. Don't listen to her exaggerate like that. When they grow older, they'll become better." Shen Yoren said, "That is because your kid is obedient. If you meet the naughty ones like mine, you will know it." Lin Che said, "That is because you haven't been interacting with Nianian for long. He may look like an angel from first glance, but after a while, you will know how challenging it is to live with a little devil every day." Yu Minmin shook her head and said, "Look how you two exaggerate so much." Shen Yoren held Yu Minmin's elbows. "Treasure the alone time you have with Mr. President. Now, after the child is born, tisk, tisk. If both of you want to be intimate, it feels like an underground spy meeting." Looking at Shen Yoren's begrudging look, Lin Che could not help but laugh and say, "Why? Are you dissatisfied? Is it when you two are at the peak of intimacy, your children barged inside, so you are so begrudged?" "Stop it," Shen Yoren blushed and scoffed. Just then, a maid came over and said, "Ma'am, Mr. President is back." Lin Che and Shen Yoren immediately retracted their cheeky look and glanced at each other. They could not help but laugh, their seriousness unlike their characters. Gu Jingming was indeed back. When he entered, he saw the trio sitting here, and he smiled. "Thank you for visiting Minmin. If you have the chance, do come to the glazed tile palace more frequently. Minmin feels bored alone usually, so I am very grateful that you can come and accompany her." Yu Minmin looked at Gu Jingming, who just walked next to her. "Alright, it is not so exaggerated. I'll take these few days as a break. Although I am alone, I am not that bored. Don't we have a lot of people at home? They are naturally different from your friends." Gu Jingming looked down and caressed her hair, looking at her dotingly. His eyes were full of love, so much that the 2 people watching felt like they should leave. Lin Che and Shen Yoren exchanged a look and stood up together. Lin Che said, "We will come whenever we have time. I'm just afraid that by then, you will get annoyed from our much too frequent visits." "That will definitely not happen." Gu Jingming smiled. When the 2 of them left, Shen Yoren scratched her ears exaggeratedly. "Oh my, the gaze Mr. President gave you Minmin is so intoxicating, so deep with love." "Yes, Minmin looks very joyful now," Lin Che exclaimed. At first, she was not happy that they were together because Gu Jingming did not treat Yu Minmin so well. However, seeing how they were today, she felt happy for them. Things are hard to predict. When we met each other, we perhaps never thought that this woman would enter his heart in the future. Thus, we should not make judgments at the start, right? Shen Yoren asked, are you talking about you and Gu Jingze? Would you have ever thought that you would have a pair of twins with Chen Yucheng when you first met him? Right, I didn't think about that. He was so annoying at first. Lin Che said, right, I think so too. Initially, I told myself then, don't fall in love with Gu Jingze. But who knew it would become like this? The two exclaimed while walking. Lin Che asked, what have you been doing recently? I am still doing experiments, files, and running through resources, but because I need to take care of the children, I cannot manage it so much nowadays. But I don't know what I can do. Although I feel like there is a lot of time, I did not do anything much to pass every day. Lin Che suddenly remembered that she wanted to manage the film company. If you have time, you can come to work with me. Yu Minmin and I were planning to set up our own film company, but she is pregnant now. I think Mr. President will not let her be so worn out, so we are now missing manpower. Film company. Those kinds that film drama and movies. Chapter 880. Why was Gu Jingze so angry? Yes, we lack the manpower to manage people. Go ask your Chen Yucheng quickly to come to invest some money. He has so much remuneration every year. Where does he hide it? He doesn't even take it out. Upon listening, Shen Yoren became slightly interested. She said, I will go back and discuss it with Chen Yucheng. Actually, I am just worried that because I had never done this before, will I screw it up? Everything starts with trying it out. Hee, are you afraid that you will lose all the remuneration your Chen Yucheng earns? It won't get to that extent. He gets tens of millions of remuneration per year just from Gu Jingze. Our company just needs a few $1,000,000, so you won't lose all of it. Lin Che said. Shen Yoren looked at her. Tisk, you are here to ask for remuneration on behalf of your husband, right? After getting remuneration from you, we immediately return it back to you for investment. You two have such a great plan. I got found out. He. The duo played around and left. However, Shen Yoren seriously considered it when she returned home. The announcement of the Nangong Yu movie that Lin Che was participating in was quickly broadcasted. The character Lin Che was playing was called Mi Na. She conned for a living and lived in all sorts of lies every day. She could change her identity anytime and anywhere to con different people. Lin Che liked this character a lot. It was announced that the name of the movie was Who Am I?, which was characteristic of Nangong Yu. When you just hear about the title you would have no idea what you would be watching. Lin Che would enter the filming crew soon. She first went to participate in the opening ceremony and met the few leading casts. The male lead was very experienced. He was Jun Linen, 35 years old, had many fangirls, and was an older actor full of charisma. Although many people said his face was ageless on the television, when she met him in person, she could see that he had many wrinkles on his face. Only because the lighting was good, he seemed very young. But he was indeed a good guy. When he saw Lin Che, he took the initiative to shake her hand and said to her, that day, Nangong told me that the female lead this time is you and I was looking forward to it. Hello, this is the first time we are working together. I hope we will work together well. These were all seniors, so Lin Che was definitely respectful. Brother Han, please take care of me from now on. Not at all, we will support each other. He could not say much in front of Nangong, but behind his back, he lazily leaned there and told Lin Che, I think this drama will have a good reputation. But this is a comedy, which is different from those big movies adapted from novels. Nangong's movies are all so indie. It will have good but not great sales. But Nangong has such a good reputation that acting in his movie is like being gold-plated, so it is still beneficial for an artist's image. Lin Che said, anyway, I am good if it does not make a loss. I think the script is quite good and with Brother Han's involvement, the box office will definitely not be bad. Your little mouth speaks well. Jun Linen laughed. As the two main leads of the movie, they would have many scenes together so they would frequently interact off-set. But this movie had many other cast members making a cameo. Although they may not have as many scenes as the two of them, some just appeared for a tiny bit as a favor. Even when Shui Yong was introduced by Lin Che to make a cameo, Nangong agreed happily. But the good thing about a low-budget movie like this was that everyone was familiar with each other. The filming scene was not so serious. Everyone looked like they filmed the movie by playing around, which was a lot more relaxing than filming drama in the past. On the internet, some people posted a few photos of Lin Che and Jun Linen. Everyone was envious of Lin Che, who seemed to be like a collector of handsome men. All the male actors she worked with were handsome men. Now that she also collected Jun Linen, she made many fangirls full of jealousy. This day, she returned home from filming. She had not entered the room and already heard Gu Jingze breaking something inside. The maids did not even dare to breathe. The room was deathly silent. Lin Che felt that it was strange that Gu Jingze would be so angry. Standing at the door, she did not go in first but stood outside to watch. Gu Jingze stood there, full of coldness, freezing the room as if everyone was in an ice house. Lin Che heard Gu Jingze say, "Let someone contact Mo Jingyan." The people below said, "Sir, we are unable to contact Mr. Mo. He is probably not in C Nation. What should we do?" "Then go overseas and contact him." Gu Jingze silently turned back and glared sternly. "Do you need me to teach you?" Lin Che felt that it was strange. Why did he need to contact Mo Jingyan? And so urgently? Gu Jingze looked up and saw Lin Che looking from outside. He took in a breath and retracted his expression. "What are you looking at? Don't you see ma'am standing at the door?" The maid took a look and quickly came out to open the door. Lin Che hurriedly walked over and said, "No worries. I've just returned." While slowly walking towards Gu Jingze, she looked at him. "What happened?" Gu Jingze's voice did not return to the tremendous anger like just now. The maids looked and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. They felt that ma'am's return was their saving grace. Gu Jingze said, "Nothing, just some company matters. Why are you back suddenly?" He wrapped his hands around Lin Che's waist and walked inside. She looked up and did not answer her question. She asked again, "No, something must be wrong, right?" If nothing was wrong, Gu Jingze would not be like that. She had never seen Gu Jingze so angry like that before. Gu Jingze closed his mouth and did not say anything. Lin Che looked at him caringly. "If you don't tell me, I will be even more worried about you. I will think about all sorts of things and I don't know where my thoughts will lead to." Upon hearing her, Gu Jingze looked down at her. Lin Che's eyes sparkled at him, earnestly wanting him to answer her properly. Gu Jingze took a deep breath and sighed helplessly. All right. He had no other choice. After looking at her eyes like that, he had already given up. Furthermore, indeed, he would be worried about how her thoughts would wander. Actually, it is no big matter. After the Fang family was destroyed, they left some military power. It was slowly split, but there is this military factory that had just been leaked. Someone spread the rumor that this factory is in the hands of GU Industries, which means it is in my hands. Someone sabotaged the parliament to question the president why the critical industries of the military will involve GU Industries. They're asking, is he not splitting private and public matters and putting the country matters below his own family to benefit the GU family?